Hello there, welcome to my video. I'm just gonna make a quick video going over the next dungeon that we'll be going through in the Mega Dungeon campaign. Each of these dungeons is based around a different school of magic, and the second one is about enchantment. I'll just go through how I crafted the dungeon, my ideas, where I got the ideas from, stuff like that. So let's go to this. First, I just went through the spell list. I want most of the dungeons to be focused around the spells. It's a little difficult with this one. Most of the spells are like manipulating people to do things. Enchantment is obviously, yeah, changing people's ideas or making them do what you want. Yeah, I had a little bit more trouble. It was more of a challenge, that's for sure. But yeah, I used quite a few of these spells, and when we go through the dungeon, I'll show you how. So that was the first thing I did. Went through all the spells, and then I wrote down what I thought maybe I could do with said spells to do some interesting things. This was my brainstorming. All the things in bold are things that I've included in the dungeon in one way or another. Might not necessarily be in the way that I've written it down, but these are what I initially thought about. Charm traps make the players do dumb things they wouldn't normally do. I've got a few funny ones in the dungeon that are pretty. I think if they trigger them, it's going to be quite funny. Then there's all the horrible enchantment stuff mixed with encounters. So in the middle of encounters, making hold person, confusion, all sorts of things like that. Basically, I've managed to put that into just one encounter. So it's going to be really, really frustrating for the players. But that's what enchantment is. A room of held monsters, a group of held people, maybe allies. I've got that in there. We'll go through how that works when we get to the dungeon. Tasha's Hideous Laughter encounter or puzzle. I managed to sneak that in there. I think it's a pretty interesting encounter as well. Psychic Scream is an awesome spell. If you die to it, your head explodes. So I wanted to include that in there. And I've sort of linked that with the hold person, hold monster thing as well, which we'll go through when we go through the dungeon. Some modify memory stuff. It's pretty hard to do that with PCs without like telling them you used to know this and now you know this, which is just giving them the information. So I've sort of thought of a way to include it without it being super obvious, and we'll go through that. And then Power Word Pain, which is one of the new spells from Xanathars, reduces your speed to 10. So I've got a old classic walls closing in on them. But there's nothing stopping them except for their own slow movement. I'll go through how I crafted that particular puzzle / trap as well. But these were just the things that I was thinking about going off of the spells. And I changed a few of them to fit the dungeon a bit better. But again, all of the ones in bold are included. So I suppose we'll just go to the dungeon and go through it. So enchantment was very difficult in terms of not just making it really frustrating for the players. I want there to be rewards as well as hindrances. I don't want the players to feel like everything they do is not their choice. Like just making them do things with charm or hold person constantly is just going to frustrate the hell out of them and not be interesting or fun. So I've tried to craft it in a way that there are those things for sure, but there are also interesting things that the players get to do with the spells that factor in the dungeon, like that have consequences. And yeah, I suppose we'll just jump in and and I can show you guys what I'm talking about. So, modify memory. Basically, before they go into the dungeon, their handler, Goldrick, the one who introduced them to the first dungeon, he's basically the one who's in charge of their group. He's the one who talks to shop merchants and stuff, buying gear for them and aiding them in any way they need on their downtime, and also showing them the dungeons. He has been tasked with giving the players information before they go into the dungeon. So the wizard who created this enchantment dungeon is called a Shar, and he has told Goldrick to tell the players this information. So Goldrick will tell the players that that Ashar is a friendly guy. But he's very full of pride. He considers himself very charming, and people like him. He's easily offended, however, especially regarding his social standing and how he is perceived by others. He also makes a powerful friend, but a terrible enemy. He enjoys parties and hosts them often. Upon entering the dungeon, the players have to make a DC 19 Wisdom saving throw or have their memory wiped. So this information that I've just said, I'm not telling my players. If they make the save, so if their memory is not wiped, then I will tell them. But it's DC 19, and none of them are really good at Wisdom. So there's a very high chance that they're going to go into this not knowing any of that, and that's fine. But if one of them was to make the save, then I can tell them this information. So that's just a way for me to use the spell, and it doesn't really factor too much into the dungeon. It's just a cool little thing I can do. It was for my own benefit, so that I could actually use the modify memory spell in a way that was useful, sort of, but also not just telling the players one thing and telling them to forget it. But yeah, so as they walk into it, obviously they're going to make this save, and then I'll tell them the information if they make it. And with that information, they're going to know that Ashar is this guy here, because I'm going to say that it's a guy. So they're immediately going to know that that's Ashar if they make the save. If they don't make the save, then they're just going to see 3 wizards in front of them. And they are going to invite the players to choose one of them to open the door. Whoever they think is the most charming and most radiant. And if they choose the wrong person, then Ashar is going to be insulted. So basically, the players, they can only choose one of them to open the door. Choosing the right Ashar, so if they do choose the right person, then he, at the end of the dungeon, will not fight them. Instead, he will share a feast with them because they're new friends. But if they choose the wrong person, then he will be offended, and after the big battle, which I'll go through later, he will then step off of his throne and try to kill them. Choosing the wrong one means they'll fight him. One that they choose will end up in later dungeons. So the other 2 are going to be wizards that are a part of the other dungeons. I haven't figured that out just yet. But if they choose one of these 2, they'll get benefits in a different dungeon. So even if they choose, doesn't matter which one they choose, there's going to be good consequences and bad consequences. Each character must make a Wisdom 14 save against charm. So all of them are going to be charmed unless they make the save. I'm basically just making it so their insight checks are higher to see if they're lying, because they think they're friends. And then they each get to ask one of the wizards a question, to see, to get information if they do all lose their memory to. Depending on which one they pick, they'll get different boons. So if they choose the actual Ashar, they can cast Suggestion once by saying, I'm friends with Ashar. If they get the middle wizard, they can cast Mother's Embrace, which is protection from energy. And then the third one, they can cast Mirror Image, and it's called 2 places at once. So they each get... Only one player will get one of the boons, whoever is the one who picks it. But once that's done, the door will open. Depending who they pick, it doesn't change anything in this dungeon apart from the final combat. But the layout and everything else will be the same. So this door will open, and they'll come into this chamber here. So we have, I'll just zoom out, we have the main fight here, which is it looks a bit chaotic here, but we'll go through that right at the end. So there's a tunnel. They can go left here. Up here is the entrance to the So up here, there's the entrance to the party. So they'll also be told that there's a party and that they're invited. They are the guests of honor. But there are a few things they have to do before they can enter the party. So this door, if they go investigate it, there'll be music, there'll be lights that they can see through, but they can't open the door. But there's a gate here, which the thief with a decent enough thieves tool check will be able to get through it. And behind the gate is a like a table full of weapons. And this is the first of the charm traps. So as they walk closer, whoever gets within, I don't know, 10 or 15 feet of the weapons has to make a charm saving throw. So I think it's wisdom. Yeah. So they have to make a DC 14 wisdom saving throw. And if they fail, they will think that one of the weapons is magical and far better than the weapon that they have. So they'll want to swap their weapon for it. But they also will be compelled to test the weapon on the nearest creature. So whoever fails this save will pick up a weapon that they think is better than the weapon they have and attack their ally. It's obviously not going to do too much damage, but I think it's just a cool sort of trap where it's not like your regular pit trap or your dart trap or anything like that. So again, a tiny minor inconvenience, but and none of the weapons on there are going to be magical. If they see a dagger on there and they think it's magical, it's going to be exactly the same as the dagger that they put there. So they're not actually gaining any cool items or anything for it. They just think they are. The next is this little pit here. So it's very similar. If the players walk within a certain distance to it, they have to make another charm save, DC 14. If they fail, they are compelled to push their friends into the pit. It's going to be 20 or 30 feet. It's not going to be crazy high, but yeah, they're basically going to make grapple checks and strength checks to try to push the others into the pit. I'm really hoping that like the rogue fails and the barbarian doesn't, and the rogue just is trying to push the barbarian in, and he's just like, "What are you doing? Why? Stop it!" and just pushes him back. I'm hoping for a funny sort of interaction there. So once they get to the doorway, they're going to realize that they need to do things in the dungeon before they can go to the party. Down this hallway, there's a drain just here. As they get to the drain, if they go close enough, they are again going to have another charm trap, and they're going to be compelled to throw something valuable down the drain. So whether that's gold or a potion or a ring or something like that, it's up to the players. I'm not going to say it has to be worth a certain amount of gold, but something that's valuable to their player. And they're just going to throw it down the drain, and it's going to disappear forever. Another little annoying charm trap, but maybe by this stage they would have figured it out. But yeah, so those are the three little charm traps. And then we go into this main room. So this is the main sort of theme behind the dungeon, is the party. And when they walk into this room, there's going to be this poem playing. So here's who made the party list, but you're the guests of honor. You decide who gets to come and join us for our supper. So each of these cages has a group of things, and they will be in this room for the party. So there's this giant amount of monsters in here. And the players are going to have to kill them all. But they have an opportunity here to decide who will actually be in the last encounter. So obviously this amount of creatures, there's no way they could kill them all. And there are some other things in the final encounter that will help with that, but we'll go through that later. So basically there are these little levers next to all of their cages, and the players can decide whether they are invited or whether they are rejected. So there's a switch. If they click it to the invited, the creatures in the cage will be in the final encounter. So that's just the mechanics for how that work. Next in the poem, before you go and cull them all, know some have powerful friends who they themselves could send you to your end. Intimacy is well and good, and my company is revered, but maybe keep some other guests lest you upset some of my peers. So I'm hoping that with that, the players will know that some of these creatures are actually like emissaries of the other wizards in the other dungeons. So if they kill the troll and he is a friend with the conjuration wizard, then they will have to deal with something later on. Basically, with this dungeon in particular, I'm really trying to make what they do in this dungeon affect other dungeons. I don't know how I'm going to do that yet, and it's a bit up in the air, but I'll think of that as I get to the other dungeons and make them. And it also depends on what the players do. So obviously, if I didn't have the condition that they're upsetting other wizards, the players could just kill all of these creatures and there'd be no one there, and they would walk up to the wizard at the end with no issues whatsoever. But now that there are consequences for them actually killing some of these, they perhaps won't kill them all, or they will. So that means that this dungeon will be super easy, but it means future dungeons will be much harder. So it's weighing what they think is more important. So yeah, I haven't figured out which creatures are going to be for which dungeon, but I was going to roll randomly at the end of this once I've gone through everything, and we can maybe do it now. Once they do that, this room here with the these three creatures will open. So this isn't a cage. This is a stage. This is separate from people who are invited. And this is the comedy show. So we've got an Azer, a werewolf, and a hobgoblin devastator. And it will be announced that they are comedians, and they're each going to tell a single joke. And the players have to decide who told the best joke. So I have their jokes here, and depending on who they choose, they will get they will get something from the creature. I haven't decided yet. Maybe like an item or a potion or something, and it'll be different for each of them. That's not something that I've decided just yet, and it might not even be something. But they again are each emissaries of a different school of magic. So the werewolf is transmutation. Obviously their shape changes, so that makes more sense. The Azer is conjuration, because you can summon them with elemental summoning, I think. And then the Devastator is evocation, because he uses evocation magic, which means whichever one they choose will help them in a future dungeon. The players don't know this. This is just something that's just going to come up, so they'll have a friendly ally in one of the future dungeons depending on which one they choose. With that, the friendly one will disappear, and the other two will be very upset that they were not chosen, and they will force the players to laugh at them by casting Tasha's Hideous Laughter. So the two that are not chosen are going to initiate combat by casting Tasha's Hideous Laughter and basically try and kill the party. So it's going to be 2 creatures versus the 5 in the party, but they're going to start off with an advantage because the players are going to have to make a save as to whether they are rolling around on the ground, restrained or not, incapacitated, whatever it is. So that's that room here. This is the main part of the dungeon. I don't know how the players are going to do it. Maybe the barbarian's just going to go through and just pull all the levers, or the paladin's going to say we should keep the wolf safe and the lizardmen because they're nature or whatever. But I'm hoping for a lot of deliberation and really trying to weigh the decisions before they make them. But I'm really excited, and the final encounter is very, very dependent on what they decide in this. Once they go through there are these staircases. Once they go down the staircases, they are put into a long tunnel, and if the modify memory spell, if one of them succeeds, they know that down the end of a very long tunnel is a secret treasure. But apart from that, they just have to go down this to get their invitations for the party. I'm not sure whether I'll let them know that or just let them explore. If they're maybe stumbling around and they don't know where they're going and it's taking too long, I'll give them a hint that they need to go down a long tunnel to find their invitations. But how this room works, they just walk down it. Once they get to the middle, the walls are just going to start moving in slowly. And they're going to be racked with pain from the spell Power Word Pain. So how it works is their speed is reduced to 10. I made all the rolls pretty difficult because I want it to be challenging. I don't want one of them to make a save on the first round and just run to the end of the hallway and pull the lever and stop the walls from crushing everyone. I want there to be some suspense, and I want it to be dramatic. But at the same time, I don't want to kill my players because they failed their rolls. So I've measured it out. There's, I think, 60 feet here. Even with 10-foot movement speed, the rogue can get there in a couple of rounds, given that he makes all his saves. You know, and with 5 of them, there's a high chance that one of them will make their save before they all die. But still, there's going to be acrobatics checks, athletics checks to move. Starting round 2, they're going to start taking damage, 2d6. Up to round 5, if it gets that bad, they'll be taking 3d6 every turn. But I think they're going to deal with it fine. And if anything, one of them is probably going to be right at the front and roll his constitution saving throw and dash in one action and pull the lever, and everyone's going to be okay. But, you know, I also don't want it to be too deadly where they all just get crushed in a hallway as they're trying to get their invitations. But once they do get to the hallway, they just pull this lever and the walls stop. And in this chest are their invitations. So they now have their invitations to go to the party. The door will open once they present their invitations. But if they investigate and they're going to have to roll really high, there'll be a second, like a hidden floor in the chest, and inside will be a treasure. I'm thinking of maybe a +1 item for one of them. I haven't really decided what's going to be in there yet. But I'll do that closer to the date. But if they save against the modify memory spell, they know that there's hidden treasure in here, so they can just keep looking until they find it, as opposed to one quick glance and seeing that there's nothing here and giving up. So that's another benefit to making the save on the modify memory. But once they've done that, the only thing that's left to do is the party, the final encounter. So we've got a big room here. We have a Shar at the end. He's at the table, and everything in here is lit up. It's a big banquet hall, and when the players open the door, it's just going to be chaos. There's going to be this fire snake thing riding on the wolf, rodeo style. These two are going to be dancing, waltzing together. These two are going to be this group here are going to be fighting. It's just going to be chaos. None of these creatures have any control over what they're doing because Ashar, the enchanter, is controlling that for them, and that's going to be a big part of the fight as well. So when the players enter, the music is going to die down. Ashar is going to welcome them to the party, and then combat is going to start. So we'll do this at the end of the video. I'm going to roll randomly for every single one of these creatures to see whether they attack the players, attack their other creatures, or do something like dance on the spot or pick their nose or something like that. And then, just to decide how the creatures act at the start of the combat, because each round things are going to change. So each of these little squares or rectangles that I've got here, so there's a 1, which is this half, which is the pink, it's a little hard to see, then 2, which is this half, which is a little hard to see, then 3, 4, 5 are thirds, and then 6 is the whole group. So on his turn, and as he gets 1 legendary action, so he can do this 2 times every round, Ashar is going to roll a d6 to see which area of the combat he is affecting, and then he is going to roll a d6 to see what the effect in that area is, and then all the creatures in that area have to make a saving throw to save against what the effect is. So say he rolls a 6, every single creature is affected, and then he rolls a 3, which is this. It's Enemies Abound. So the spell Enemies Abound is cast on all of those creatures, and they need to make a saving throw or attack the nearest creature. Or maybe he rolls a 4, and the middle group gets... So this group here in the middle, they get the effect, and then he rolls like the Hold Person spell. So everyone in that square has to make a roll to save from being held in place. So I've got 6 different abilities, and then the 6 different zones. So this is going to make it... this could make it more difficult for the players or the creatures. So if all the players are in one square and they all have to make a save against it, it's really going to hinder them. But I think it's going to be an interesting combat. I'm super excited. It's going to be very... I think the majority of the dungeon is going to take like half. Like if on a 4-hour session, I think getting to this point will take about 2 hours, depending on the players. And then this combat is probably going to take 2 hours in itself, just because there's so many moving parts. And I think it's going to be interesting. I'm hoping it's not too intensive and the players are sitting there for half an hour for their turn while I'm doing all these things. But I think there's enough going on that it will be interesting, and I can run it fast enough that the players aren't waiting too long. But that, and then at the end, once they've killed all of these creatures, they will go to Ashar, and if they picked him at the start of the dungeon, he will welcome them, make them sit down at the table, and they will have a feast together, and then he will give them some prizes, some treasures, some boons. I haven't decided that yet. Or if they offended him by picking one of the other wizards, he is going to fight them. He's not very strong. He's an enchantment wizard. He might chime one of them to fight the other one, but I don't think they'll have much issue killing him. But it's, again, once they get using all their resources to get through this group, and then having to fight him again is probably going to be a pain in the ass. But again, once they kill him, they'll get some items and boons and things like that, so that's fine. But I suppose at the end of this video, let's roll randomly to see the things that are. So let's say, so I have 6 more dungeons left. I have Illusion, I have Abjuration, I have... What are the other ones that I've got? Let's have a look. So let's quickly go through. So Abjuration, Conjuration, Transmutation. So Abjuration, Conjuration, Abjuration. No, not Abjuration. What was the next one? Transmutation. There it is. Mutation, Evocation, and then Divination, the last one. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to roll a d6, and each of these creatures are going to be a part of one of these schools. They were sent by the wizard that is in charge of that particular dungeon. Actually, I might roll a d7 so that there's a chance that these creatures, or maybe a d8, so there's 2 chances that these creatures have no affiliation. So a 1 and a 2 is no affiliation, a 3 is illusion, 4 abjuration, 5 blah blah blah. Continuing on. So RD8, this is for the goblins. So the goblins, wait, did I just roll? Whoops. Alright, the goblins have no affiliation. The kobolds have, so 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is conjuration. Okay, so the kobolds are conjuration. Let me just put that in the GM layer. Whoa! Alright, conjuration. Alright, so now that we know the kobolds are as conjuration. Alright, let's go with the knight and his 2 squires. He is no affiliation. The winter wolf is illusion. Okay, very nice. Where are we? Text. Illusion. And I'll clean this up for my own benefit once it's done. The troll. 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Transmutation. That makes sense. Being a big old troll who can regrow stuff. Transmutation. There we go. The fire newts. 5, so the one before transmutation is Conjuration. Wow, it's pretty spread field here. Except for Conjuration's got 2, so they might not want to mess with the snakes and the kobolds. The lizard people, what do we got? 4, so the one before Conjuration was Abjuration, okay. Abjuration. And the Gnolls. The Gnolls have no affiliation. So, that's pretty good. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 out of the 8 have affiliation, 3 don't. I think that's a good spread. I think it would be cruel to have each of them affiliated with one of the dungeons, because then they're pissing off somebody no matter what they do. At least this way there's a bit of RNG whether they might kill the people who aren't affiliated with anyone and get some free stuff. Okay, now this is rolling to see what each of these creatures are doing at the start of the combat. So, how am I going to do this? I'll just click on them and we'll roll a d6. 1 is attacking players. No, there should be more than that. I think it should be a 1 and 3. So 1 and 2, they attack the players. 3 and 4, they are doing nothing for the first round until basically they're in a charm state, like Held Person or Crown of Madness. Something is controlling them so that they're not attacking the players. But in later rounds of combat, they may save from that and do that. And then no, I think 1, 2, 3 attacking the players. 4 doing nothing. 5, 6 attacking with the players. So attacking any creature. I think that's good. So I'll just GM roll that to myself so that we know what's going on. So we have 1 to 3 attacking the players. Okay, I don't know what that was for. Okay. GM roll 4. Doing nothing. Nah! I'm still doing nothing. GM roll... GM whisper is what I should be doing, sorry. And then 5, 6. Attacking the nearest creature. All right, let's roll. All right, so I'm aware, and I will just how I'll go about it is on their token. I'll just put I'll put the number that I rolled. All right, Mr. Lizardman, D6. All right, he is attacking the players. Mr. Kobold Dragon Shield, he is attacking the nearest creature. Nice, he's a good ally to have. The Lizard Wizard is also attacking the nearest creature. Wow. The Guard is attacking the nearest creature. Man, these guys have got so many allies already. Let's go for the Lizard Berserker. He is attacking the players. Nice. The Fire Newt is also attacking the players. All right. They got some allies. They got some enemies. The 2 little random kobolds attacking enemy. Oh, if they're fighting the troll, this is going to be amazing. So a 5 and a 6. The Gnoll Chieftain is attacking the players. The troll. Now this is the big one. This guy's big badass. 2 attacking the players. Okay. So they have 2 little allies in the kobolds, but they got 2 big bad scary guys there. All right. Number 6 for the kobold sorcerer. He rolled a 6, so he's helping. So the kobolds are on their side. The knight. He is their friend as well. Man, I'm rolling a lot for those guys, but his squire is not. All right, let's try to speed things up. He is a bad guy. The goblins, bad guys. Goblin. And if they kill all of these, if they kill all their allies at the start as well, it's very random as to how this will go. They could kill all of the things that are helping them and save the things that are about to kill them at the end. So I like the element of RNG in it as well. One, doink. 6. So they've got a decent amount of allies and a decent amount of enemies. I mean, I was never going to throw this amount of creatures at them without giving them opportunity to kill a bunch of them with the traps, with the levers, and also giving an element of RNG where they have allies on their side as well. So it's going to be a big fight, full of lots of moving parts, but I think it's going to be okay. I'm looking forward to it. It is the main moment in this dungeon, I suppose you would call it, the crescendo, and it deserves to be a big thing. Just quickly get all these done, and then we are done. One last little archer. Null archer. Doink. 6. I think I've got all of them. Or did I miss this little guy? Yeah, I did. Doink. My players are going to come into chat, see all these random D6s and be like, what is going on? Okay. I think that's about everything. So I have a pretty good description of the dungeon. It took a lot to figure out how to do this dungeon. The spell list for enchanters are not really conducive for dungeons. It's more for social interactions or manipulating people. But I think I've, after some thought and some work, I think I've come up with a pretty interesting and hopefully fun dungeon for my players. But yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions or anything, you can make comments and stuff like that. But I suppose I'll see you next time.